Welcome everyone to Half History Will Travel. I am your host, the Wilder Historian, and last week I covered Robert E. Lee's report over the first day at Gettysburg. This video picks up and discusses the next day. It was determined to make the principal attack on the enemy's left, and endeavor to gain a position from which it was thought that our artillery could be brought to bear with effect. Longstreet was directed to place the divisions of McLaws and Hood on the right of Hill, partially enveloping the enemy's left, which he was to drive in. General Hill was ordered to threaten the enemy's center to prevent reinforcements being drawn to either wing and cooperate with his right divisions in Longstreet's attack. General Ewell was instructed to make a simultaneous demonstration upon the enemy's right to be converted into a real attack should opportunity offer. About 4 p.m. Longstreet's batteries opened, and soon afterward Hood's division on the extreme right moved to the attack. McLaws followed somewhat later. 4 of Anderson's brigades, those of Wilcox, Perry, Wright, and Posey, supporting him on the left, in the order named. The enemy was soon driven from his position on the Emmitsburg Road to the cover of a ravine and a line of stone fences at the foot of the ridge in his rear. He was dislodged from those after a severe struggle and retired up the ridge, leaving a number of his batteries in our possession. Wilcox's and Wright's brigades advanced with great gallantry, breaking successive lines of the enemy's infantry and compelling him to abandon much of his artillery. Wilcox reached the foot and Wright gained the crest of the ridge itself, driving the enemy down the opposite side, but having become separated from McLaws and gone beyond the other 2 brigades of the division, they were attacked in front and on both flanks and compelled to retire, being unable to bring off any of the captured artillery. McLaws' left also fell back, and, it being now nearly dark, General Longstreet determined to await the arrival of General Pickett. He disposed his command to hold the ground gained on the right, withdrawing his left to the first position from which the enemy had been driven. 4 pieces of artillery, several hundred prisoners, and 2 regimental flags were taken. As soon as the engagement began on our right, General Johnson opened with his artillery, and about 2 hours later advanced up the hill next to Cemetery Hill with 3 brigades, the 4th being detained by a demonstration on his left. Soon afterward, General Early attacked Cemetery Hill with 2 brigades, supported by a 3rd, the 4th having been previously detached. The enemy had greatly increased by earthworks the strength of the position assailed by Johnson and Early. The troops of the former moved steadily up the steep and rugged ascent under a heavy fire, driving the enemy into his entrenchments, part of which was carried by Stewart's brigade and a number of prisoners taken. The contest was continued to a late hour, but without further advantage. On Cemetery Hill, the attack by Early's leading brigades, those of Hayes and Hoke under Colonel Avery, was made with vigor. 2 lines of the enemy infantry were dislodged from the cover of some stone and board fences on the side of the ascent, and driven back into the works on the crest, into which our troops forced their way and seized several pieces of artillery. A heavy force advanced against their right, which was without support, and they were compelled to retire, bringing with them about 100 prisoners and 4 stand of colors. General Ewell had directed General Rhodes to attack in concert with Early, covering his right, and had requested Brigadier General Lane, then commanding Pender's division, to cooperate on the right of Rhodes. When the time to attack arrived, General Rhodes, not having his troops in position, was unprepared to cooperate with General Early, and before he could get in readiness, the latter had been obliged to retire for want of the expected support on his right. General Lane was prepared to give the assistance required of him, and so informed General Rhodes, but the latter deemed it useless to advance after the failure of Early's attack. In this engagement, our loss in men and officers was large. Major Generals Hood and Pender, Brigadier Generals Jones, Sims, G.T. Anderson, and Barksdale, and Colonel Avery commanding Hoke's brigade, were wounded, the last 2 mortally. Generals Pender and Sims died after removal to Virginia. The result of this day's operations induced the belief that with proper concert of action, and with the increased support that the positions gained on the right would enable the artillery to render the assaulting columns, we should ultimately succeed, and it was accordingly determined to continue the attack.